Karen called the cops on me the day a plane crashed on my ranch, claiming I was disturbing the peace. I wish that was the most ridiculous thing she did, but it was just the beginning. Picture this. I'm on my knees in the dirt, blood and mud all over my jeans, cleaning up cuts and checking the arm of a pilot who'd just had the worst day of his life. And here comes this woman. Crisp white HOA polo, sunglasses on her head, marching like she's about to solve a crime, holding bright orange garden shears. She didn't offer help, didn't call 911, didn't ask a single human question. She started cutting my water hose, literally cutting it while I'm trying to stop the bleeding, yelling, "Cease this unauthorized activity." Aviation fuel hanging in the air, my heart pounding in my chest, and this lunatic is waving a citation book over an injured man like she's casting out demons. I'm not making this up. "Ma'am, you're interfering with emergency property values," she screeches, kicking over my first aid kit. I still had the taste of copper and rage in my mouth when, 5 minutes later, her entire little empire came crashing down. But, hang on, let me back up 6 months and set the stage for this little piece of American suburbia gone mad. My name's Jake Morrison. I'm 52, retired Air Force mechanic, proud owner of a 47-acre slice of real Montana dirt just outside the Millbrook Heights subdivision. A place that's supposed to be quiet, peaceful, maybe a little boring, but definitely not the setting for some HOA civil war. This land, barns, fields, workshop, came from Uncle Pete, and it's been in my family since Eisenhower. For the last 3 years, my therapy was fixing up those old barns, building a workshop for vintage aircraft, and pretending my biggest problem was keeping the squirrels out of my tool shed. Mornings out here mean coffee on the porch, meadowlarks singing, the faint thump of trucks on the highway. My wife, Sarah's a nurse at the county hospital. Our daughter, Emma's a 17-year-old with more horsepower in her little Jeep than sense most days. We're the mind-your-own-business, wave-at-neighbors type. But here's the catch. My land sits right against Millbrook Heights, but it's not part of it. My property's older than any of their bylaws. Heck, older than their developer's first gray hair. Enter the villain, Karen Whitmore. 49, works code enforcement for the county, moved in 2 years ago, and started her improvement campaign like she was sent in by FEMA. Imagine a $450,000 house with grass so fake green you'd think it's plastic, white Mercedes washed twice a week, and that clipboard. Always the clipboard, like it was surgically attached. Her campaign started harmless, certified letters, snippy about my industrial activities violating community standards. She wrote up my Saturday morning carburetor tinkering like I was running an illegal chop shop. Then came the noise complaints, photos through a telephoto lens from her Mercedes, spreadsheets with timestamps, like I was living next to the IRS. It wasn't just me. I fixed tractors, cleared branches, jump-started batteries for half the neighbors. Most folks liked me. Karen, though, she treated the HOA like her private army. Those meetings, if you've never sat through an HOA meeting with someone like Karen, count your blessings. She'd call county inspectors 47 times in 6 months, trying to get my barn condemned, filing reports about my unpermitted driveway, even Emma's chicken coop. Sarah joked that Karen probably irons her grass. I didn't laugh. What I realized, maybe too late, was this wasn't just random HOA busybody stuff. This was a campaign. The goal? Run me off land my grandfather built. If you've never had someone try to erase your family history, trust me, it's a rage you can taste. And that's when I stopped playing defense. One Tuesday, as I'm elbow-deep in a 1952 Cessna carburetor, County Inspector Mike Rodriguez shows up. Face says he'd rather be anywhere else. "Jake, sorry, but another complaint about the barn. The barn that predates her HOA by 40 years. He hands me a manila folder thick as a phone book. 47 complaints. Not just the barn, my workshop, gravel driveway, Emma's chicken coop. I realized she's carpet bombing with paperwork. So I dig in at the courthouse, dusty records, stale coffee, old farmer's wisdom echoing in my head. Buried in 1963 property records, an agricultural exemption, official seal, and all. Bulletproof. I sent Karen the whole set, survey, deed, exemption. She signed the receipt with a pen so hard she nearly tore the paper. I thought that'd stop her. Huh. She doubled down. PowerPoint at the HOA, pie charts about industrial noise, photos of me with a socket wrench, as if I'm smuggling uranium. Old Martha Hendress, retired teacher, raised her hand. Karen, isn't his land agricultural? Grandfathered. Karen's face turned beet red, snapped back about challenging status. Most neighbors just looked confused. They came for an emergency, got drama club. She upped her game, started whispering about my unlicensed flight school. Called the local newspaper. The reporter, Brad, came expecting Top Gun, found me cleaning spark plugs on a 1946 Champ. This is restoration? That's all it's ever been. The article? 8 sentences on page 6. Karen's plan crashed and burned. She went federal next, filed with the FAA, accusing me of illegal commercial flight training. She knew less about planes than my dog. What she didn't know? My friend Chuck Williams, who uses my strip for maintenance, is a federal FAA safety inspector. Chuck calls, half laughing. Some nut just filed a federal complaint saying I'm running a flight school here. His investigation was coffee on my porch, reviewing documents he's seen for years. His report, Mr. Morrison represents the gold standard of civilian restoration. I mailed Karen a copy. This time, her husband had to sign for it. Sarah couldn't stop giggling. She probably thinks you're CIA now. But I wasn't done. I compiled every bogus complaint, every wasted taxpayer dollar, and gave it to Deputy Rodriguez. Jake, that's 31 calls from this woman since January. Yesterday she reported you for suspicious aircraft movements. It was Chuck, here for coffee. The kicker? Martha tipped me off. While Karen was stalking me, she neglected her actual HOA duties. Broken lights, drainage, neglected playground. Neighbors started asking why their fees weren't fixing anything. She declared war on the wrong neighbor. Then she crossed a line. Real, legal territory. I caught her crouched in the cedar windbreak, telephoto lens aimed at my window. Security footage revealed she'd been surveilling my property every weekend for weeks, measuring fences, photographing tools, cataloging every visitor. That's called stalking in this state, and I had the tapes to prove it. I called Marcus, Air Force buddy turned security consultant. He walked me through the criminal harassment process. I handed 3 weeks of Karen's greatest hits to Deputy Rodriguez. She needs help, he muttered, watching her crawl through my bushes at 5 a.m. Karen wasn't done. She dragged a poor county inspector up to my property line, barking about violations. The inspector, exhausted. Ma'am, these are farm structures, grandfathered in. He drove off while she lectured the cows. I found out later his office had a Karen protocol, supervisor approval before responding to any more calls from Millbrook Heights. The turning point came the morning of the crash. October 15th, sunrise painting the pasture gold, Chuck's Cessna coming in with a cough. I knew the sound, engine failing. He put it down as best he could, clipped a fence, crashed nose first into my dirt. I was running before the dust even settled, grabbing my kit, heart thudding. Chuck's bleeding, dazed. Don't move. Then, the voice I'd come to hate. What did you do? Karen, bathrobe and slippers, finger pointing like she'd caught a war criminal. Ma'am, 911, call it. She called. All right. Called in a complaint about unauthorized aviation activities. As I'm tending to a bleeding man, Chuck, barely conscious, reaches for his wallet, pulls out his badge, Federal FAA. You just filed a false emergency report in front of a federal inspector. Her face lost all color. 911 was still live. The dispatcher heard it all. Cops arrived. EMTs treated Chuck. Deputy Rodriguez pulled me aside. We got her, Jake. It's obstruction, on tape. But the allies kept coming. Martha, with a folder. Karen had used HOA funds for private investigators to spy on me. Embezzlement. Sarah, my wife, had found county ethics violations. Karen used her government title for personal vendettas. Chuck had 18 months of Karen's harassment on record, enough for a federal case. We built our case methodically, security footage, medical records, 63 false reports, misuse of county resources, embezzled HOA money. And then Karen snapped. I caught her, 2:47 a.m., flashlight in hand, planting aircraft parts at the crash site to create evidence. She even tried hacking HOA records to delete her trail. Too bad Martha had backups. Karen then tried to bribe me, sweating through her polo, offering community repair funds if I'd drop the charges. I was recording. Bribery, added to the list. Karen was placed on unpaid leave, Her county car and computer seized, security clearance revoked, career in freefall. The HOA conducted an internal audit, found she'd filed false reports on at least 6 other residents. Supervisor Helen Walsh put it to the paper. This woman used her position as a weapon. Karen's world was collapsing. The emergency HOA meeting to remove her was standing room only. Deputy Rodriguez read the official report, 71 calls. 68 found to be harassment. Chuck explained federal obstruction. I played the 911 tape. The room, dead silent. Karen shrieked. You don't understand. He was violating standards. Martha shut her down. You were pursuing a vendetta. The board voted. 127 in favor of removal. Security escorted Karen out as the room burst into applause. 3 months later, Karen pled guilty, federal charges, probation, fines, community service. The judge's line went viral. You wasted more taxpayer resources than most criminals steal. She paid me $8,500 in damages for $1,200 back to the HOA. Lost her job, her security clearance, her reputation. The neighborhood, under Martha, transformed. Complaints now require documentation, board approval for spending, property values shot up, neighbors talk instead of spying. Chuck's crash turned into a blessing. We started an aviation scholarship for local kids. Now, our annual fly-in draws pilots from 4 states, and the sound of laughter and airplane engines is the soundtrack out here. Last I heard, Karen moved 2 counties over, managing a big box store. Funny, isn't it? Turns out a reputation for abuse is worse for property values than a dozen vintage airplanes ever could be. So what did I learn? Document everything, know your rights, and never let small-minded bullies tell you what you can do on your own land. Sometimes, the only way to stand up to a Karen is to fight back with the truth, patience, and a really good security camera system. You got your own HOA war story? Drop it below. I want to hear about the wildest thing your neighborhood tyrant ever pulled. And let's hear where you're watching from. State, town, I don't care. Debate justice, fairness. Tell me if I went too far or not far enough. This is America. Sometimes, the little guy wins. And that feels pretty damn good.